we ordinarily would be reading in sequence chapter 30.2, freedom of will, which is only 5 paragraphs long. So we're going to assign that for home reading. However, we'll do a 1 paragraph summary of what it had to say in that section, because it's all about your willpower, which is actually a gift from the Creator. And so it is very important to understand. And so this is taken directly from the last paragraph. This world awaits the freedom you will give when you have recognized that you are free. But you will not forgive the world until you have forgiven him, the Creator, whom gave you your will to you. For it is by your will the world is given freedom, nor can you be free apart from him whose holy will you share. Now, there's a point here that I want to make sure we don't forget. It says, you will not forgive the world until you forgive him, capital H, until you forgive the Creator whom gave you your will to you. And some people might say, well, the Creator's never done anything bad to me. Why would I need to forgive the Creator? I don't have any list of faults or judgments against the Creator. But all of us do have concepts about the Creator. We have ideas in our mind, these are beliefs about the Creator, many of which were just a hodgepodge of ideas that were loaded into our mind many times before we were 10 years old, and continued to be loaded in. And it's those ideas that act as obstacles to our true relationship with the Creator. And so they blind us to the reality of the Creator. And so we must forgive them, to give them forth and let them go, in order to not have any superimposition, no veils between us and the Creator. And then our willpower, which was given us by the Creator, is released and is free. And that it has a function then to serve to free the world. We'll take comments in just a minute. So that's the remaining paragraphs are given to you to read at home. We today in our reading together are going to move on to Beyond All Idols, which is also about misdirected willpower. What do we mean by misdirected willpower? It can be understood as using willpower to pursue misguided ends. And underneath this pursuit is a set of false assumptions about yourself, your nature, and what is needed to bring you happiness. All this, these concerns circle around the question of what do you really want for yourself? And it is with this question that many are truly lost in illusions. What do you want for yourself? In this session, we'll examine anew the answers that lay beyond all worldly idols. Hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader today is Kathy S.
Idols are quite specific, but your will is universal, being limitless. And so it has no form, nor is content for its expression in the terms of form. Idols are limits. They are the belief that there are forms that will bring happiness, and that by limiting is all attained. It is as if you said, I have no need of everything. This little thing I want, and it will be as everything to me. And this must fail to satisfy, because it is your will that everything be yours. Decide for idols, and you ask for loss. Decide for truth, and everything is yours.
Mm-hmm. So again, there's always a contrast between different points of view. In this area, the contrast is between that which is specific. Idols are quite specific, and that which is universal. Your will, creation, love, the power of love is universal. And being universal, it's everywhere and applies to everything. It's not discriminatory. And so your will has no form, was to say that it adapts to everything and anything. It's not narrow. Now we're talking about your holy will, not your misdirected ego wishes. We're talking about the gift that was given you has no form, nor is the content for its expression in the terms of form. What does that mean? Your will exists on a plane of reality along with the creator and your own nature. So it is limitless. It's applicable throughout eternity. So there's no specific content on an expression that correctly summarizes your will. It's all encompassing. And why is all this of any importance at all? Is because in confusion and ego illusions, there is great misunderstanding regarding our willpower. This is primarily because the ego wants to insert its own wishes and its own beliefs in place of our willpower. And then our mind gets confused and believes that our ego wishes are our will. In Course in Miracles, we refer to that as misguided, misdirected, imprisoned will. It's believing that your will belongs to the ego. What the goal, of course, is of course, to free us from that so that our will returns to its proper place and our mind aligns with our will and with the spirit, and all is then in perfect unity. So, one more thing. Our focus will today be on how idols substitute for our will, and they become a misguided preoccupation. And after our reading today, hopefully you'll be convinced that that's a poor substitute for your willpower. Sandra, you had your hand up?
Yeah. My experience with this is not only didn't I understand God, but I didn't understand creation either. And I'm still learning about both. And I am just so grateful that God knows this and sent us a comforter, the Holy Spirit, and tells us in this book that the only way out of here is to stop judging and to forgive and count on the Holy Spirit and count on God's guidance, not because I didn't understand God and I didn't understand creation, I got scared. I see this all so innocently. And so then I created an ego and I thought, oh, well, I got to be in charge here. I got to fix this place. I got to make it work better. It's, and it's so innocent. We're all so innocent. But that's the only way we're going to learn, unfortunately, on this planet is through waking up and understanding the truth and be willing to grow and change, which can sometimes be painful. I'm complete.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay, so idols get in the way of our willpower. Kathy?
It is not form you seek. What form can be a substitute for God the Father's love? What form can take the place of all the love and the divinity of God the Son? What idol can make two of what is one? And can the limitless be limited? You do not want an idol. It is not your will to have one. It will not bestow on you the gift you seek. When you decide upon the form of what you want, you lose the understanding of its purpose. So you see your will within the idol, thus reducing it to a specific form. Yet this could never be your will, because what shares in all creation cannot be content with small ideas and little things.
Mhm. So we're jumping right into deep water here. Deep in the sense that the awareness of these things is lost to almost the entire population. And so this, to become aware of these things is to take people into waters they're not accustomed to swimming in. And so here's the contrast between ego's world and the truth. In truth, you do not want an idol, and it is not your true will to have one. Um, and and idols are not going to give you the happiness, the joy that you seek. That's the truth. The ego would tell you just the opposite. And so when you believe the ego's guidance, then your mind decides upon the form of what you want. Some idol, let's say I want to be a movie star. I want to be rich. I want to be popular. You just name whatever you can think of that this world would teach is most important. When you decide on the form of what you want, you lose the understanding of what role it plays in your eternal journey, of what its purpose is, and instead believe this is the error of the mind. You see your will within the idol. You invest your belief, your attention, your faith, and your power into the idol, thus reducing your will to a specific form. If I get this idol in my life, then I'll be happy. That's what one convinces themselves that these idols are worthy of pursuing and will bring happiness. Truth is that we've read about before is once you get an idol, you realize, oh, I'm still not happy. Let's find another one. And or it takes on the form of let's find more. So if a young person is very ambitious, they say, I want to be a millionaire. So they pursue and they become a millionaire, and they realize, that was all right at the time, but now that I'm a millionaire, what else is there? Let's become a multi-millionaire. And then it just more is the goal of the ego with regards to all these things. All right, so it's a confusion of your will and a misguided investment of seeing your will within the idol. And so we will read about it here in the general case. Each of you has your own specific ways in which these things have shown up in your life. And it's up to you to recognize the way idols have arisen in your life. No one's here to judge you about those. And in your own time, the invitation is for you to divest your faith from those idols, to divest your belief from them so that they no longer become containers that you place your purpose and your willpower into, for they're unworthy containers. Sandra, you have a hand up?
Yeah. I really appreciate this because this is the part, what we're talking about, I think. My experience with it is not understanding creation, because I'm here to create. And what would I create? What I want. However, if I turn that into an idol instead of an opportunity to learn who I am and what my skills are, and to align with God. I mean, every time I've wanted to create, which I call taking a risk, to create something in my life that I think is worthwhile and that I want. One was a home. I came to know God. So I think that creation is a beautiful thing as long as we do it with God. If we don't and turn the creation into an idol instead of an opportunity to know God better, then it can just blow up in our faces, and it'll be very painful. I'm complete.
Mm-hmm. Very, very true. Okay, let's pursue this a little further.
Behind the search for every idol lies the yearning for completion. Wholeness has no form because it is unlimited. To seek a special person or a thing to add to you to make yourself complete can only mean that you believe some form is missing. And by finding this, you will achieve completion in a form you like. This is the purpose of an idol, that you will not look beyond it to the source of the belief that you are incomplete. Only if you had sinned could this be so. For sin is the idea you are alone and separated off from what is whole. And thus, it would be necessary for the search for wholeness to be made beyond the boundaries of limits on yourself.
And thus, the entire world seems to be motivated for the search for wholeness outside of oneself. The Course says the error is in believing that something was missing to begin with, that your fundamental nature is somehow inadequate or incomplete. The Holy Spirit corrects that error by helping us to know that we are as God created us. We were created whole and complete. I'm talking about your spiritual nature. I'm not talking about your physical body or even the state of your mind as you're aware of it right now. I'm talking about that part of you, the eternal you, was created as complete. But the false teaching is that you've been separated from the Creator and are now missing something and are incomplete. And so let's spend a lifetime of searching for something to complete us. And by the way, wouldn't it be great if we could find some idols that would complete us? And so the idolatry The quest for idols to complete ourselves becomes the fundamental drive of this world, all based upon a faulty belief that we're inadequate, something's missing in our own nature. Kathy?
I think that sentence, for sin is the idea you are alone and separated off from what is whole. I think that's really important. I had it underlined in my book, but I don't remember ever reading it. And so, but you know, God goes with me wherever I go. The course is about relationships. So the course is turning this whole idea around for us. But you know, I meet people that believe in sin, and it's just like, but this is an interesting definition of sin. We think we're alone, and we're not. We're connected, right, through the it's almost like a so quantum physics, we're all connected, and one action on by one of us affects someone else. That's quantum physics, and they've proven it. And I don't know, I think this is really important for those that believe in sin, because this can be reversed.
This can be reversed, corrected by the Holy Spirit. So I'm going to offer something here, because when we say sin, we do not mean, the Course does not mean the orthodox teachings about sin that go back thousands of years. That is not the meaning that the Holy Spirit gives to sin, a violation of some taboos from various cultures of the past. And so here would be one, this is meant to be fun, way to remember the Course of Miracles meaning of sin. Sin equals LOL, LOL, lack of love. It's the belief in lack of love. In truth, there is no lack of love, but sin is the belief that you are lacking love, that they are lacking love, and the world is lacking love. That's the meaning. And how does that happen? Because for sin's the idea you are alone and separated off from what is whole, and therefore lacking in love. So, to circle back, all of that is a part of the mistake, the error that leads us to feel as though we're missing something, yearning for completion, and thus that sets into motion a worldwide quest of the search for wholeness, to be made beyond yourself, to look outside yourself in hopes of finding something that will make you happy.
It never is the idol that you want, but what you think it offers you, you want indeed and have the right to ask for. Nor could it be possible it be denied. Your will to be complete is but God's will, and this is given you by being His. God knows not form. He cannot answer you in terms that have no meaning, and your will could not be satisfied with empty forms, made but to fill a gap that is not there. It is not this you want. Creation gives no separate person and no separate thing the power to complete the Son of God. What idol can be called upon to give the Son of God what He already has?
Mm-hmm. So there's a principle here that we want to dwell on a moment, because it might, I think there's easily a lot of confusion here. God does not know form. God knows not form and cannot answer you in terms of form. And so I'm going to use a trite example. let's say one is in need of their car dies and is a person's in need of transportation. Okay, to get to work, to get their family around, take the kids to school, etc. We understand that. And so then one prays, God, please give me a brand new red Corvette. So we've got a very specific prayer for a very specific form of transportation that we idolize as being something that will make us happy, when what we really need is something more general, a form of transportation. But we think we need this specific thing. Just know that God does not know form and can't answer you in terms that have no meaning. And so when you do pray, pray for a solution to what is fundamentally needed and trust that God will find the appropriate answer to that. You need not detail out all the specifics to how that answer should come to you, for God knows not form. Sandra?
Yeah, I love this because I love that God wants me to complete to be complete. And the thing that completes me is not a thing, it's God. It's my relationship with God and God's relation, and more importantly, it's God's relationship to me. God sees me as perfect and complete and loving and kind and does not see sin. And that's not how the world would want to see me. So, again, to create whatever I'm creating, it doesn't matter if it's an opportunity for me to know my God, to know my creator.
This whole time and space is an opportunity given us to relate to the Creator. All right, let's go on.
Completion is the function of God's Son. He has no need to seek for it at all. Beyond all idols stands his holy will to be but what he is. For more than whole is meaningless. If there were change in him, if he could be reduced to any form and limited to what is not in him, he would not be as God created him. What idol can he need to be himself? For can he give a part of him away? What is not whole cannot make whole, but what is really asked for cannot be denied. Your will is granted, not in any form that would content you not, but in the whole, completely lovely thought God holds of you.
So there's a contrast here between what is an eternal truth and what is temporary appearances. The eternal truth, what Sandra spoke about a minute ago, is that we were created to be complete by the Creator. We were given all that the Creator chose to give us in creation. It's a complete package. You have no need to seek for it at all. It's already a part of you. That is the eternal truth. But the temporary illusion is that we have to seek for completion outside of ourselves through idols. The truth is, if there were any change in our nature, that would mean that we would be changed from what God created us as. We're talking about our spiritual nature, and no being in all the universe is going to change your spiritual nature from what God created you to be. no mistake. Okay, here's the misunderstanding that comes. It's the idea that of being kicked out of the Garden of Eden, that you were created by God to be part of his plan, but you made a mistake. And for that, we're kicking you out. That's the belief that, and who's kicking you out? The creator's kicking you out. All right. So the belief is that you now have taken on this sin, this guilt, this you're now a problem and must change in order to restore you to your proper place with the creator. All of that is a part of that story may have served its purpose when it was originally formulated 3,000 years ago, and may still serve a purpose to today, but it inherently teaches guilt, that you're flawed and incomplete and mistaken, and need some kind of solution to restore you to wholeness. The Course helps us to understand the eternal truth is that you are a part of a thought that God had in his mind in the beginning and has never forgotten. And this is really important to this would, if you can retain this idea, you will be able to lay hold of the gem. This thought is the whole complete lovely thought God holds of you. He had that idea in your mind, in his mind, before he created you. When he created you, he had that lovely thought in his mind, and it has never changed and never be forgotten. That's the eternal truth. Everything else is but a passing, temporary interpretation that seeks to substitute an alternative idea in place of the lovely thought God holds of you. Sandra?
Yeah, I'm really inspired. I hope you don't mind me just raising my hand, but the greatest gift, of course, that God gave me was Holy Spirit. But the other gift was, behold, I create. I can create. That's why it says in the Bible we were created in the image and likeness of God, because we have the capacity to create. The problem is that we got hung up on our creations. We got attached to them. And that's not the purpose of creation. I think for me at least, the purpose of creation was to know God. I'm complete.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, so now we understand the difference between the eternal truth and the temporary illusions. What do we do with this?
Nothing that God knows not exists. And what he knows exists forever, changelessly. For thoughts endure as long as does the mind that thought of them. And in the mind of God, there is no ending, nor a time in which his thoughts were absent or could suffer change. Thoughts are not born and cannot die. They share the attributes of their creator, nor have they a separate life apart from his. The thoughts you think are in your mind, as you are in the mind which thought of you. And so there are no separate parts in what exists within God's mind. It is forever one, eternally united and at peace.
Mm-hmm. So let's recall just for a second, a moment ago, we were speaking about that we are the thoughts of God. We are a whole, complete, and lovely thought that God holds of you. So in this paragraph we're looking at, when we say thoughts, especially with capital T, we're referring to those thoughts, the lovely thoughts God holds of you. And if that thought is not in God's mind, then it does not exist. And if those thoughts that are in his mind exist forever, changelessly, he's not going to change his mind about your loveliness. And those thoughts endure forever. He's never going to forget. They're not born, they cannot die. And most importantly, so on the level, this requires that you be willing to shift your perception of reality for a moment. So for a moment, if you could just envision that reality exists only in terms of mind, forget about the material world for a moment, and think that it exists only as the holy mind of God. That's the only thing there is of reality. Though, and therefore we are the thoughts in God's mind, and we share the attributes of the Creator, nor do we ever have a life that is separate and apart from the Creator. So now we're talking about the thoughts in your most holy mind, not the thoughts in the confused little mind that thinks it's separate. The thoughts you think are in your mind as you are in the mind of God, which thought of you. And so there's one mind, no separate parts in what exists within God's mind. It's forever one, eternally united, and at peace. I find that to be by faith. So you can only believe that by faith. But I find the logic and the simplicity of it to be very easy to accept. Inside the mind of God are these thoughts. They're perfectly one. They're whole united. They're never going to change. They're lovable. They share the same attributes of the Creator. We need to contrast those thoughts, which are your true eternal thoughts, with what we would call the dream of time, which is very different. So we distinguish your true thoughts from your dreams. And this is where it will make sense perhaps now to you, where the Course says, when you're not thinking with God's mind, you are not thinking at all. You're dreaming. And that your thoughts that are your dream thoughts do not mean anything because you're not thinking. Your mind is really thinking about nothing, which is a blank. And we need to learn to recognize nothingness when we think we see it. This is workbook lesson 10, to learn to recognize nothingness when you encounter it. And I'll add, it's in the next lesson, not be afraid of it. The simple version of the first half of Course of Miracles is learn to recognize meaninglessness, nothingness, ego mayhem. Recognize it as nothing and not be afraid. Only then can one move on to the subsequent stages where you become really free. As long as you look on ego craziness and are afraid, then that means that you believe it's real and have invested the power of your mind into it and are caught up in that dream. So freedom is to recognize nothingness when you encounter it, and without fear. Kathy?
I think this is a very beautiful concept that all existence is mind and thinking. And I connect with it. I think it's really powerful. So love is really a thought. Love is thinking.
Yes.
It's all mind. I was on one of those Facebook groups, for A Course in Miracles, and somebody said, how boring is heaven, that there's nothing but, you know, love there. And I thought, love is boring to you? I was just like shocked. I was like, it couldn't get any better, right? But this person had this idea that heaven would be boring without all these things. And but I think this is incredibly beautiful, and I think it's true. I had a lucid dream that I went to heaven, and it was all just people just talking, like thinking together, and like little conversations and golden light and love. I was completely immersed in love. It was a lucid dream, and I woke up, of course, but I whatever it lasted, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, it just felt like forever, and it was beautiful. So I feel like I connected to this for that little bit of time, and I'll never forget it,
Hmm.
and but I thank you for this, Jonica. I love the way you describe this. Thank you.
Not an original idea with me. I got it straight out of the Course of Miracles. Thank you, Kathy. Sandra?
This just affirms once again for me that we're in God's school. And Kathy, just for your last comment, I would just say that, is creation boring? Is God boring? I mean, come on, guys. Here we are being offered a limitless, just this limit. We are unlimited. And we can, and love is expansive. So we can just keep creating and forever and ever. I'm complete.
Mhm. Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I just want to comment on what Catherine said, because I used to have that concept that without things, life would be boring. Like, what would I do? Just sing praises to God for eternity? And to me, it's like, there has to be something else. Like a year after my wife passed away, I used to be asked, come and visit me in my dreams, or can I come and visit you? But nothing's ever happened. And then this one night, I had this experience as she's standing in front of me. And I just felt this tremendous love. And I could tell that there were other entities separate but together. And I was just feeling like this is where I belong. And I would hear her voice in my mind say, well, you have to go back. And I said, go back? She goes, yeah, you have to go back. And then I felt this pull or push, and I was in this gray area. And I didn't want to leave where I was because that love felt so tremendous. I willed myself with every inch of my will to bring myself back. And there I was standing in this presence again. And there was just this laughter coming from her, unbelievable laughter. And then said this again, you had to go back. Well, that time it was a really big push or pull, and I found myself in complete darkness, blackness, couldn't see a thing. And for a few seconds I was there, I thought, what is she talking about? Go back to what? I had no concept of this world whatsoever, that this earth even existed,
Hmm.
or this life that I had here. And then I opened my eyes and I looked, and I'm in my bedroom. Boy, was I pissed. I was so angry, did not want to be back here. And, that changed my view of what it would be like just to be in the presence of love. because I did not want to leave that. It felt so tremendous that this world held nothing compared to that. So thank you for bringing this memory back.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you for sharing it with us too. Lauren?
Yeah, so I just want to also add that I had an experience similar. It was psychedelic induced, but that's okay. And it was a oneness. It was just I was one with the universe, and it was love, and it was incredible. And I remember my thought was, well, this is really kind of boring. So to what Kathy was saying, and what I think that is the ego. Kind of the ego comes in and says, oh, but all of these things that I, concern myself with and I agonize over, what would I do if I don't have those things? But it really shifted my being of knowing that, there was this love out there that was just wonderful. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. One more comment, Sandra.
Yeah, and I just want to say, when you don't have those things, that's where you get into creation mode. Maybe you don't have what you want, but there it is. There's the creation. Okay, let's see what else might work in this situation. It may not be what I want, but I can create to make something that works for everybody concerned. So I just love that I am one with my creator, and that I can create, and that I can come into that power of creation so that I can create a whole new world based in God's love, based in my relationship with God. I'm complete.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for those shares. We're going to go on.
Thoughts seem to come and go, yet all this means is that you are sometimes aware of them and sometimes not. An unremembered thought is born again when it returns to your awareness. Yet it did not die when you forgot it. It was always there, but you were unaware of it. The thought God holds of you is perfectly unchanged by your forgetting. It will always be exactly as it was before the time when you forgot, and will be just the same when you remember. And it is the same within the interval when you forgot.
So I think this is also if you're willing to shift into this concept of the mind of God, the principles that govern that domain are fairly easy to understand. They all make perfect sense. That the thoughts God has of you remain unchanged forever. They don't depend on your human consciousness remembering them. Your human consciousness fades in, we all know, fades in, fades out, fades back in. But the thoughts God holds of us are continuous. They are actually eternal because they can't be improved upon. And so the ultimate goal beyond entering into the gates of heaven is that you would fully share the thoughts of God. That your mind, we're talking beyond forgiveness, beyond learning, beyond all confusion, in a state where you wake up to the truth and there are able to fully share in the thoughts of God. Now, to the comments that were just made, someone on the other side of that experience may say, how boring would that be to share in the thoughts of God? Well, that would be an assessment, an evaluation, or a judgment. And how would someone who's not had the experience be able to make an accurate assessment of what the experience is like from the side of not understanding it to begin with. So I think it was Lauren said this is probably an ego thought of, like, wow, this is boring. Yes, the ego feels very threatened by all that we're talking about here and will tempt us by suggesting let's move on to something else. Let's look elsewhere for our happiness. But the eternal truth is that the thoughts God holds of us are perfect, are unchanged forever. They never leave your most holy mind. They are an eternal part of your most holy mind. And again, the whole purpose of this course is to remove any obstacles that may exist between your most holy mind and your present consciousness, so that you become one-minded rather than split-minded, split between the ego's notions and the truth of your most holy mind.
The thoughts of God are far beyond all change and shine forever. They await not birth. They wait for welcome and remembering. The thought God holds of you is like a star, unchangeable in an eternal sky. So high in heaven is it set that those outside of heaven know not it is there. Yet still and white and lovely will it shine through all eternity. There was no time it was not there, no instant when its lights grew dimmer or less perfect ever was. Who knows the Father knows this light, for he is the eternal sky that holds it safe, forever lifted up and anchored sure. Its perfect purity does not depend on whether it is seen on earth or not. The sky embraces it and softly holds it in its perfect place, which is as far from earth as earth from heaven. It is not the distance nor the time that keeps this star invisible to earth. But those who seek for idols cannot know the star is there.
Mm-hmm. So that's very poetic what was just said. So high in heaven is this thought of God set that those outside of heaven know not it is there. We just said, how could anyone who's not yet experienced the thoughts of God or is instead invested in idols evaluate the experience of being in that when because the thought is so lofty that it's outside of it cannot be known except within the domain of heaven. And translated in A Course of Miracles, this is beyond the experience of time and space. This is beyond the domain of forgiveness. This is beyond the domain of words and language. These are eternal thoughts. They're not in English, and they have nothing to do with what you think of as your human self. They existed before you were born. They await not your birth, but in order for you to reconnect with them, they do wait for your welcome and your remembering. This is your mind's ability to let go of all interference patterns so that it can be in a state of peace and turn then towards spirit and welcome the return of the memory of God. Idols and seeking for idols inhibit and obscure this awareness. So you're just going to have to trust by faith that this experience that's on the other side is rich and full and complete and anything but boring. In fact, it's so fulfilling that it's enough to keep you satisfied for all eternity. Kathy?
Yeah, I think what this is getting to is that we have to get out of our own way. We're blocking ourselves. And I'm learning this, right, with time. Time is for healing, and miracles occur naturally. So when I'm blocking myself and not recognizing God in my life, that He provides, that He's given me everything that I need, that He created me perfect. When I recognize that and honor Him and see all of this He's done, that's like a first step. And the Course is so beautiful and teaches us everything we need to know with the Holy Spirit lessons, the 3 lessons, all these things, all these lessons, the 365 lessons. It's a masterpiece. It's perfect. It'll get us there,
It's the gift to us to help us there, indeed. Jeff?
Those were the thoughts I had before the course, but through the course, I've been finding a love that I've never experienced before. And this workbook lesson 10, I use often because it just dispels those ego thoughts when I remember my thoughts do not mean anything if they're bringing fear, if I am not experiencing peace. And when I think that there's something boring or there's anything outside of love, then I'm not in peace. So this is a lesson that I continually still use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Thank
you. I too have just am nearing the finishing the review of the first 50 lessons. And if one could do a short course in A Course in Miracles, the first 50 lessons of the workbook would be a very good place to begin with, because it's all about this recognition that I must be mistaken. There must be another way of looking at this, and I need not fear the illusions that I had believed in before. I need not be afraid. Sandra?
And every time I remember, my relationship with God is a holy instant. Because when I remember my relationship with God, I don't have any fear.
Indeed. Okay.
Beyond all idols is the thought God holds of you, completely unaffected by the turmoil and the terror of the world, the dreams of birth and death that here are dreamed, the myriad of forms that fear can take, quite undisturbed. The thought God holds of you remains exactly as it always was, surrounded by a stillness so complete no sound of battle comes remotely near. It rests in certainty and perfect peace. Here is your one reality kept safe, completely unaware of all the world that worships idols and that knows not God. In perfect sureness of its changelessness and of its rest in its eternal home, the thought God holds of you has never left the mind of its creator, whom it knows, as its creator knows that it is there.
I just had an insight. It related to this idea of how boring it would be in heaven, kind of notion, and it's contrasted with the two experiences in this world where emptiness is the starting belief of many, that I need to get something to make me happy. Then there becomes this endless searching and quest for more of something. And even after we get that something, then we realize I'm still feeling empty, more, more. Referred to in the Course of Miracles as the getting concept of the ego. And so that puts us in constant motion, in constant agitation, never satisfied, always needing. It's like being hungry constantly and always needing in a primitive society to go out and forage for more food. There's just not enough food. We're constantly at it. Contrast that with this view of heaven where the thoughts of God are complete and whole and perfect. It's an entirely opposite experience of completely satisfying. It does not need to change. It doesn't need more because it contains an unlimited, it's tapping the unlimited, the infinite, and around it surrounds peace and stillness. And so, yes, to the ego mind, peace and stillness seems boring. It's true. But that's because the ego mind is conditioned to never be happy and never be content and constantly go looking for more. And so the truth is that we have to learn that when we're not ready for that continuous state of stillness and contentment until we let go of these idols. This is why the section we're reading is called Beyond All Idols. You're only ready for this experience full time when we've gone beyond idols. That's where the thought of God becomes fulfilling and satisfying without any need for more. Noel?
I understand the emptiness of the big idols, like you were saying, get rich, get famous, whatever it is. But while we're here, what about transitory pleasures that even if we know they're transitory, we can enjoy, like you've often said, a good meal or ice cream or anything else that we can experience in the body? How do we look at those and admittedly not attach to them as big idols?
Yeah, and well, from a Course in Miracles perspective, those experiences of ice cream, a good meal, well, you name it, are really temporary experiences and have no eternal meaning. And so they're really fine. There's nothing wrong with them at all. They don't add. Here's what the Holy Spirit would have, Noel, is to somehow see what purpose underlies the pursuit of those things. That would be the more philosophic thing. Why is it that we are pursuing those things? The experience in themselves amounts to nothing, but the motivation underneath of it might cause us to look deeper and ask what's for and see it in a different light. But there's no condemnation here of ice cream or a good meal or any other pursuit. What there is instead I think, is a recognition, let us not then invest ourselves in the habit of these things so that we teach ourselves we can't do without them.
Also, depending on what it is, they might be called self-care. Like, better diet, better sleep, increasing consciousness of things like that.
Yeah. I advocate good self-care. Okay, so I don't know that the course, I'd have to look again to see what the course explicitly hints at regarding that. But my belief is good self-care makes you comfortable and capable of functioning at your best. So in that sense, it's very practical. Why would you not practice good self-care? To not do that would be to be neglectful, and then that has consequences. It's kind of like, let's really reduce it to the basic. Noel, why would you want to floss? It has no eternal meaning. It's not particularly pleasurable. It's because you're better off with your teeth. I mean, it's not. It's really outside the scope of this curriculum, the details, but it is meant to be practical. And yes, given a choice of keeping your teeth or losing your teeth, keeping them is probably the best thing. You can probably get through life with fewer obstacles if you keep your teeth. And if you lose them, that's okay too. You'll manage, but why not take care of them?
Well, taking it one step higher, flossing or anything else of a physical self-care nature enables us to contribute more to other beings. So if I look at it that way, all of that stuff has more meaning.
Yes, that's the way I look at it. Thank you. I think you hit it right on the head. It's an enabler for us to serve and function in this world. It's not to say that if you were bound to a wheelchair or a hospital bed for years and years and years that you could not serve. We're not saying that, but that definitely limits one's mobility in situations which you could show up for. David, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I come to the belief that God really wants us to be happy and fulfilled, and He wants us to be comfortable. And we are going to be comfortable in our next life. So I was just thinking with respect to your comments before about wishing for a red sports car. I don't know this for sure, but I think Lucifer's favorite color was red. So I think
So we're getting a lot of audio
you need a
fade.
car, you might be better off maybe a 7th Air, just crossing the state line of South Carolina. Did you hear me?
We're only getting about a third of your last few words there, David.
Oh, that's probably good.
All right. Well, when you get back into the zone, maybe it'll be easier to share that.
All I was saying was that I think that you'd be better off praying for a white sports car or maybe a 7 Series BMW.
All right. All right. We'll keep that in mind. Not red. Anything but red.
Right.
All right. Thank you for that. One more comment, Sandra.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this conversation because I was previously an addict, and we live in an addictive society, and that's all about more. And the solution to addiction, guess what it is? God. The programs that I've been in, that's the solution. I'm complete.
Mhm. It is. It is. Okay, to floss or not to floss? Just think about that.
Oh, and I would just like to add that we are having a body experience. So all this makes very much sense, knowing that we're having a body experience. And if you don't want to have a body experience, then you won't take care of your body, and you'll sit in the middle of a highway and get killed. That's it. Otherwise, take care. Take responsibility. You're having a body experience.
True. Kathy?
Where could the thought God holds of you exist but where you are? Is your reality a thing apart from you and in a world which your reality knows nothing of? Outside you, there is no eternal sky, no changeless star, and no reality. The mind of heaven's Son in heaven is, for there the mind of God and of Son joined in creation, which can have no end. You have not two realities, but one, nor can you be aware of more than one. An idol or the thought God holds of you is your reality. Forget not, then, that idols must keep hidden what you are, not from the mind of God, but from your own. The stars shine still, the sky has never changed. But you, the Holy Son of God himself, are unaware of your reality.
Mhm. So the question it raises here is one of where is this lovely thought of God? And our minds immediately think we're in space. So is it in Florida? Is it in Virginia? Is it in Rhode Island? Where? And, I think you can see where this is going. It would be easy using kind of an orthodox religious view to say, well, it's in God's mind. God is in heaven, is not here. It's in heaven. That would be a way of using the space, the distance between earth and heaven as an obstacle, a form of separation. It's an illusion of different spaces. The thoughts that God holds of you are part of you. They are in your nature. They are not different from you. And so they're part of your reality, your being, your essence. And so it's all the thoughts God holds of you are right here, wherever you are, wherever you go. They are a part of you. They are in your, not your DNA, they're in your spiritual essence of your nature. And so the Course many times refers to the gap that exists between your current consciousness and that spiritual essence, which is right here with you. It's an imaginary gap. It's full only of illusions. And those illusions are there only because our mind has conceded faith to those illusions. If we withdraw our faith from those illusions, then the gap is seen as nothing. There is no gap. And the part of our mind that is engaging and giving faith to the ego reunites and restores to its proper place as one with the thoughts of God that are already in our most holy mind. So it's not a question of where you go. You take the reality with you wherever you are. You have not two realities, but one. There isn't this future. Oh, this can also, we talked about just now in terms of a different space, like there's somewhere heaven in a different place than physically than where you are now. This can also, illusion can be mapped onto time. And one can believe the illusion that in the future, all these things will be true for you, but not in the present. This is also an illusion that is an attempt to keep some obstacles between your current awareness and the thoughts of God. So in truth, neither thoughts about time nor space can keep you separate from the thoughts of God. They're with you right now and forever, and right here and anywhere you go. And so you can, in that sense, they're the most trustworthy attribute that you have. They're, let's say it another way, everything else that you typically identify as part of your life is time bound and space bound. It will be gone in 1,000 years. Or it would be, if we move you to another part of the world, you'd be separated from it. All those things are transitory. And so you can't really invest your sense of identity in something that can easily be taken away. But the thoughts that God holds of you cannot be taken away. They're with you now and forever. They're with you here, wherever you think you are, and wherever you may go. They're always with you. So in that sense, they are the most trustworthy concepts, ideas that your mind can possibly have. This then leads us to the next insight, which is, where are you really safe? Where does your safety lie? And it's right where we're referring to. It relies in the thoughts that God has of you, for you can always count on them to be with you wherever you go. Noel?
A related comforting thought is that God is cause and I am effect, and I complete God. That is my higher self, my big S. God is cause, my big S is effect.
Yes. Yes, it is. Very related, because that is forever true. Kathy?
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts and then I have a little funny thing. There are no neutral thoughts. And I, about 5 years ago, I had a lucid dream of Jesus, and he came from the dark recesses of my mind. I saw a blue light, like a star, like it's talking about here. And there was my part of me, like my soul, that recognized him and said, Jesus. And I was like, who is that said that? And then Jesus manifested in my lucid dream. So it was weird, but I think it's like a little hint about how some of this works, because it's talking about the star shines still. The sky has never changed. He was a blue star. And part of me, my holy self, recognized him. And it was almost like a voice that like, who said that? It was my soul speaking to me, my ego. And I'll never forget that. But the funny thing, you're talking about flossing. I did a coconut pull, like coconut oil pull, organic. If you do that, your gums will actually get healed and flossing will actually feel good. I know that's weird, but since you're talking about flossing, I thought, because you said it like painful or whatever, but if we do the right thing, my dentist was impressed. Let's put it that way, okay?
See, you learn all kinds of things here that you didn't know, and we're grateful for it. And there's so much more to know. Let's just summarize what we read today in this one line. Forget not. This is a not a declaration, a command. What's help me, Noel? Forget not. This is anyway, it's a declaration.
Near the bottom,
Forget not
lines up.
that the idols must keep hidden what you truly are, not from the mind of God, but from your own. That is the purpose of an idol, is to keep hidden the truth of your own nature, to busy you with other ideas, the pursuit of which would seem to make us happy, but in fact would lead us into just wanting more and more and more and more and more. So that's as far as we're going to read today. Thank you, Kathy, for your help in reading today. Thank you all for your sharing. We have more to pursue with this. Remember to spend a few minutes reading those 5 paragraphs that we skipped, and we'll pick up this chapter again real soon. Final comments, Jeff?
Yes. I just wanted to go back to the acronym LOL for sin, lack of love.
Yeah.
And then I remembered that the first sin was believing that we could separate, and should have just laughed out loud.
Should have just laughed out loud. Yeah,
Or could have.
could have.
I don't want to shit on myself, but
Missed that opportunity. Yeah.
And do you have a moment afterwards? Can I speak to you for a moment?
Let's
I know
see.
you
I promised Lauren that we'd talk afterwards. So
Okay.
let's get back in touch with me later.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks. Lauren, if you have the time now, you can hang on the line. Meanwhile, we'll say thank you all for your attention and for your looking beyond all idols. We'll see you again real soon. Namaste.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you,
Kathy.
Kathy,
Thanks,
as
everyone.
always. Thank
Namaste.
you.
Have a great
Okay,
weekend.
love y'all.
Have a great day,
You
everyone.
too.
Peace and love.